So when it comes to albendazole, when it comes to ivermectin, the real thing to reflect upon is not these two particular drugs, but rather the goal to be achieved. And the goal to be achieved is maintaining your vitality and your health at the highest level possible and bringing to bear the things that are most valuable in that battle. Okay, I'm going to say it out loud. It might be my death knell. It was at one point, at least, the third rail of social media medical conversations, and that is ivermectin. Yeah, I said it. That word, that drug, it's a lightning rod. And right away, you're probably having some reaction, either, oh my goodness, he's going to talk about that, or thank goodness he's finally talking about that. So we'll talk about ivermectin, and we're going to talk about fenbendazole in particular, but more generally, the benzamides, the class of drugs. Why are we broaching this topic? It's because people have a need to address problems that aren't being solved by conventional medicine. And when it comes to the ivermectin and fenbendazole pathways, if you will, it is looking for something to help them with cancer. You know, we've been at this war on cancer forever, and they've had some little pockets of success, but it's been, by and large, a colossal disappointment. Nobody out there would say that what we've achieved for our trillions of dollars spent has been defined as success. The problem, in part, is that it's a painstakingly slow process that has been co-opted with profit as a significant element of motivation, if not the primary. There's nothing wrong with profit. I like profit. Everything's got to have a profit or else it goes away. I get that. But the process has become so petrified that the FDA approval pipeline is excluding many opportunities to intervene in a positive way because the drugs you and I are talking about, or I'm talking about, they're orphans. They're generics. They're natural substances. Nobody is ever going to spend the money needed to really figure them out. Well, that's where we come in. That's where doctors like I come in. It's like where I come in and you come in. It's a collaboration between a willing patient and a knowledgeable physician or nurse practitioner who can guide a patient through the maze, and it is a maze out there. So there are a couple things we want to be careful about, right? One of them is not to reject something just because it seems odd or off the beaten trail. And the other is not to embrace everything that trickles down the pipeline. The one-hit wonder, the I cured cancer with rhubarb pathway. Okay, that is of noteworthy data, but not necessarily, and certainly not, proof of outcome. So we've got to be careful. The other thing that I don't want you guys to do is displace something more valuable for something more speculative. Now, one of the problems is that a lot of us, we don't fully trust the authoritative sources. Many of them have disappointed us. We were told in the past, like, what you're thinking, what you're talking about is not legitimate. That ivermectin has no value. Well, we know that these drugs have at least in vitro evidence. So let's get to the core of the matter. Can ivermectin help fight cancer? How about the benzidimols? How about fenbendazole or the other drugs in that class? Are they worth taking if you have cancer? Well, maybe, and that's a big maybe. Where do they come from? What's the evidence supporting their possible value? With regard to ivermectin, the drug was FDA approved in 1978. It's an antihelmintic. It's a deworming agent. As such, it's a fantastic drug. The inventor of it received a Nobel Prize at one point for the pioneering work that was done. It has a mechanism of action where it interferes with signaling pathways of cancer cells in a way that can help potentially to kill them. It also can interfere with stem cells, which are the mother cells that make baby cancer cells. It enhances cellular apoptosis or cell death. Now, this research is in vitro, folks. We're talking bench lab stuff, right? Cancer cells in a petri dish, if you will, seeing how the ivermectin affects them. There's not a heck of a lot out there that is in vivo or in humans. There are a few things out there, and then there are sort of case reports and case studies. The evidence is a low grade. So when I look at what I'm going to recommend for my patients, whether it's prostate cancer or any other treatment, any other disease state, there's got to be evidence of mechanism of action. There's got to be in vitro, at least, right? Cellular evidence. The next level, it's animal evidence, xenografts, where you take a human cancer, you put it in a mouse, and you see how it works in the organism. The next level is human experience, not just an anecdote online, Facebook moment, whatever, but rather collective studies of small clusters, pilot studies. And then the ultimate level are placebo-controlled studies. When it comes to ivermectin, we've got pretty much cellular evidence of theoretical benefit regarding some cancers. That doesn't exclude it from consideration, but it's just to put it in perspective. There are people out there that'll say, I took ivermectin and it cured my cancer. Maybe. Nobody is out there using that in a vacuum. Nobody. They're using it in combination with other things. Whether or not you should consider it will depend on a few variables. One, what kind of cancer are you fighting? And what degree of malignancy possesses you? If there's a treatment that has more evidence, more validated outcomes, and perhaps is even less expensive, it's worthy of putting in front of the ivermectins of the world. So in my practice, ivermectin is a late-stage consideration for people with cancers that either have no or little potential for conventional cure and have a high degree of progression, where in particular, other therapies that have more evidence of benefit have been put to work and have not panned out. So we've spoken in prior podcasts, other repurposed drugs, metformin, naltrexone, sirolimus, doxycycline, even atorvastatin. These are agents that have abundant evidence of benefit and incredible safety profiles. Ivermectin, not quite at that level. Subcutaneous mistletoe, viscomylia, another foundational element that we utilize for the purpose of helping people fight their cancer. Ivermectin is a problem regarding dose. How often, how much? The drug, as used in humans, is a one-and-done agent. They take it once, maybe in some cases they'll take it weekly for a few weeks, depending on what kind of a parasite is being targeted. But I know of people that are taking it twice a day for weeks and even months. That's a problem. Liver toxicity, other complications, in addition to spending way more money than you need to be to get a clinical effect. In the world of oncology, chemotherapy isn't given every single day nonstop. They do it intermittently. When you're killing cancer cells, you don't need to necessarily kill them every single time. Now, the different repurposed drugs have different mechanisms. The sirolimus is once a week. The subcutaneous mistletoe is once a week. Metformin is every day, changing the environment. So the ivermectin, in my practice as a repurposed drug, when it comes to prostate cancer, this is a phase 2 intervention. Phase 2 means phase 1 has been applied and there's evidence of progression, or there's evidence of a high level of pathology at the outset. There are biomarkers that will track, and then there are imaging studies. So in prostate cancer world, we hold it in reserve. You may not need it, and there are other things of higher benefit. And the same holds true for many other malignancies, even stage 4 cancers. So I've got patients in my practice, stage 4 breast cancer, advanced cases of pancreatic and liver cancer. They don't all need it. They're all, in many cases, doing just fine, which means you could be in stage 4 and stay there for years and years and years. That's the goal. Have you feel good, live well. Whatever you do, folks, if you're fighting cancer, it's got to be a long-term, sustainable pathway, because that cancer has a tendency to come back the minute you take your foot off the gas. And by all means, by no means perhaps, I do not advocate going to regional cancer treatment centers. I'm going to go to Mexico and immerse myself in a month of an array of treatments. Each treatment may have its own merit, but collectively, you can't keep that up unless you plan on living in Mexico at the treatment center. Every time I see it, every single time I've seen it happen, patient comes back and the cancer comes back with them, unless they plug into a chronic suppressive therapy. This cancer is a tough, tough animal, and it goes into remission, but it almost never completely goes away. The rate of delayed relapse is compelling. So we need a plan that's going to be long-term, sustainable, safe, affordable, and effective. So you do not fly out of the country and expect your cancer to be cured and zip back and then say, that's it, I'm all done. Can ivermectin be a part of that? You must have a doctor or nurse practitioner guiding you. You've got to check liver functions. Do not do this off the internet. And do not take a random dose based upon a Reddit thread that you read. It's like the guy at the gym just shoot up steroids because the guy next to him looks pretty big without regard to the total consequence. Now, even if your doctor is not on board with prescribing or guiding you, if they're, if they're empathic and if they're concerned about your health, they will at least monitor it with you. That's totally ethical. Any doctor can do that. They don't have to agree with what you're doing, but they can help you enhance safety. And that goes true for the other character in our story tonight, Fenbendazole. It's got a cute nickname, right? Fenben. I love it. It's catchy. But the drug itself, it's a deworming drug for dogs, for animals, not approved for human use. The research on it, there is cellular in vitro evidence of benefit. The benzodiazoles, that class of drugs, all have a similar mechanism of action. Fenbendazole is for dogs, mebendazole is for humans, albendazole is for humans. They all have a similar mechanism of action. As a licensed physician, it is within the scope of my privilege to use drugs off-label. So I can, with proper consultation, I can prescribe albendazole or mebendazole for an off-label use, but I can't prescribe fenbendazole, nor can any doctor who cares about their legal status and their license. We can monitor for safety, but you, number one, make sure if you are tempted to purchase fenbendazole on the economy, tell your doc, get it monitored. It's not intended for everyday daily use. And the dosages are unknown. It's an animal drug. You can't even begin to speculate. Like you could look at other people, maybe they've done it. There's one case in particular, Joe Tippin is a gentleman, pretty intelligent guy. He had, by all objective views, right? He had, he had small cell lung cancer. Now, small cell lung cancer is not curable and almost uniformly fatal in a relatively short period of time. He was involved in a treatment protocol. And in addition to the conventional treatment protocol that he was registered in, he did his own research and started taking fenbendazole. 3 days on, 4 days off. And it was 3 months later that his cancer was not visible. And it's been gone for years now. So that became the Joe Tippin protocol. Now, bear in mind, there are a few distinguishing elements to this. Number one, he was in a conventional treatment protocol. So we're not quite sure if fenbendazole was a component of that or not, if the chemotherapeutic regimen had to be there to facilitate the effect of fenbendazole. That's an unknown. The other variable is he had a terminal cancer that nobody survives. It's a different game when you're facing that versus, let's say you had a stage 1 breast cancer. It's a high rate of success not only with some conventional treatments, but with a lot of the repurposed drugs that we bring to bear, keeping that cancer in remission. It's certainly in the world of prostate cancer, it's not worth the risk because we don't know the proper dose. The drug can have neurotoxicity, seizures, ataxia, headache. It can cause hemorrhaging in the cornea, affecting vision, ocular pain. It can cause liver function abnormalities. Taking it every day is probably not a good thing. We don't know the dose. Hard to guide people. Now, I get it. If you're knocking on heaven's door and you've got that incurable cancer and nothing has worked, you're tempted. At least share that with your doc. Let them help guide you. Another nuance with fenbendazole, it's a very poorly absorbed drug. It's really hard to get it at a therapeutic level, even if we knew what that was. So within that class, there are options that are much safer, and we have a lot better idea about how to dose them. But one that I prefer is albendazole. Mebendazole has some nice research regarding its efficacy. But my goodness, it's $1,000 a week, right? So it fails the Petteruti protocol criteria of practical affordability. Now, albendazole, it's not inexpensive, but you're looking at, for the protocol that we've developed, approximately $500 a month. Bear in mind, it's not the first card we're going to play. This is held in reserve for all of the same reasons. Mechanism of action, it has that. Cellular evidence, yes. And at least in the case of albendazole, there's one study, a phase 2 study, just looking at safety, and it cleared the bar regarding safety in a small study. Well, that's comforting. We have a human experience study looking at a safety parameter. What we don't have is ideal dosing. So that required some reflective thought and input, and it becomes a once-a-week regimen again. These antihelmintics, they kill, and then you don't have to stay on them. And by doing it once a week, I'm balancing safety against theoretical efficacy and incorporating affordability. It blocks sugar uptake for the cancer cells. It can interfere with stem cells, and it disrupts microtubules. These are the structural elements inside the cancer cell. And when you disrupt those, a cancer cell can fall apart. Well, that's pretty exciting. Where does it fit then in the spectrum? That's a question worth reflecting upon. The cool thing about the albendazole, unlike fenbendazole, is doctors can prescribe it. Now, that's not the only reason to like it. It is the same class of drug as fenbendazole. It has wider safety parameters, and it has the similar, if not the same, mechanism of action. So for all of those reasons, it's got a nice profile. So who might be a candidate for this level of treatment? It is your Hail Mary pass when you have a malignancy that is a notoriously bad prognosis. And those are the type that I deal with all the time. People don't come to me because their cancer is fully in hand in most cases, although they probably should for secondary prevention, but rather when they're up against a wall. All of my followers with prostate issues and prostate cancer, by now you know how I feel about conventional medicine, their conventional approach, biopsy, surgery, radiation, bad, bad, and bad. This drug, the albendazole, we hold that in reserve. Phase 1 treatment, everything's going great. You stay there as long as things are smooth and copacetic. I've had people in phase 1 treatment for 8 years, 9 years. No need to advance as long as it's working, but you do have other cards to play if things progress. An opportunity to intervene in a way that can slow down cancer potentially, in a way that doesn't compromise your health. Think about how ironic it would be if you took a drug because you're trying to fight cancer and the consequence of taking the drug lands you in the hospital with an illness. That's happened. So fenbendazole, the mechanisms are fascinating. The research is underway, but the problem, you and I can't wait for research results all the time. Look, I do anti-aging medicine. I don't have 20 years to wait and see how it comes out. I have to take the evidence at hand and apply it right now. The same thing for you all if you're battling a prostatic cancer or the risk of it. What can you do right now that's going to have value? We know it takes 20 years to watch for an outcome. We know in many conventional pathways, we've been waiting forever for the brilliant breakthrough. I'll give you a little vignette that reflects a little bit about why we need to stay connected, why you need to do your own homework. And thank goodness for the internet, artificial intelligence. You can really do some primary research, and collaborating with an open-minded physician who's knowledgeable, you can have a parallel universe. I never want to disregard the value of the oncological profession and what they have to offer. We need to process that, and when it is appropriate, incorporate it. On the other hand, do not expect them to know anything about functional or alternative therapies. It's not their niche. They cannot tell you it's okay. It's almost illegal, not illegal, but it's highly frowned upon for conventional oncologists to say, yeah, by all means, go do that mistletoe, go do that Petteruti protocol. Yeah, I'm on board with that. Some of them may be enlightened enough to say that, yeah, I don't see harm there, and that's a ringing endorsement. But bringing all these factors to bear makes sense. If there's something out there that has evidence of benefit, you're fighting for your life, and there's a safety parameter, and it's affordable to you, and you have a clinician that can guide you, why wouldn't you incorporate that? Don't worry about upsetting your oncologist. If they don't like what you're doing, if you have a good basis for it and you have another clinician, someone like me who can guide you, then go for it. It's your life. It's your prerogative. There was a study done on high-dose intravenous vitamin C in regard to pancreatic cancer, and it was a traditional placebo-controlled study, and it showed an extension of life in the individuals who received the infusions. We, in the functional medicine community, were very excited. We're looking at something that is benign, natural, and can extend life in this miserable cancer. Awesome. So they were ready to do another study, and the funding got canceled. Because at about the same time, a new FDA-approved big pharma drug came to market, and they no longer felt the need to invest money in vitamin C. So that's the story. Whenever what I do in functional medicine or what you choose to pursue gets criticized for not having adequate study, it is a false criticism. There never will be enough money to get through studies that will satisfy the skepticism of people who start out with a negative opinion. So when it comes to Albendazole, when it comes to ivermectin, the real thing to reflect upon is not these two particular drugs, but rather the goal to be achieved. And the goal to be achieved is maintaining your vitality and your health at the highest level possible and bringing to bear the things that are most valuable in that battle, and avoiding the wormhole of internet-based follow the breadcrumb. The next thing you know, you're on 82 supplements, 92 juices, and a fistful of repurposed drugs, perhaps. So with that, my friends, be cautious, be skeptical, do your homework, but take an action, right? We all don't have indefinite time to reflect and contemplate. You take the action, you can always redirect. And the action you should be taking is depending on the circumstance that you face. You need to have guidance through that. And when it comes to ivermectin and fenbendazole in particular, be cautious. The dosing out there, in my experience, what I've seen people taking is way too much with a high risk. Get your liver functions monitored. At least do that and let the docs know what you're up to. Well, folks, those two agents will be topics we'll approach at other times in regard to other disease states. You notice I didn't mention COVID with ivermectin, didn't you? Look, I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. I'm not going to get shot in the head opening that one. Hey, you know what we've learned about COVID? The best treatment just might be chicken soup. I mean, the thing is a flu, and for most of y'all, it gets better. All right, and having kicked that can, we're going to move along, maybe pick that topic up another time. Thanks for your time. Look forward to our next conversation.